Remember that movie they showed the trailer for in theaters, only to have it postponed multiple times for reshoots? The New Mutants finally hit theaters after being delayed, yet again thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. While it is a good time, I can't say it's quite worth the years-long journey to the big screen.
A movie that has literally been through hell and back to finally get on the big screen. I love Marvel movies and everything comic book related, so I was very excited to finally see this, as I have waited a long time to. In my opinion, however, this is a movie that is just okay.
When I finished this movie, I felt lucky that I had no attachment to the Marvel X-Men comic book series this film was based on. A group of young mutants held in a top-secret facility fight to save themselves. And that skimpy logline is a microcosm for the film's plot. There's not too much going on here. Girl ends up in facility, meets and scuffles with other mutants, government conspiracy, final fight. That's it. I dare you to convince me that I spoiled everything for you just now. On the upside, the film did manage to mildly keep my interest with the little it had to offer. This is especially true as the film reaches the halfway point.
While the premise itself is very interesting, the execution, not so much.
Starring Blue Hunt, Charlie Heaton, Henry Zaga, Alice Barga, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Maisie Williams. Casting and performances across the board were pretty solid. The only sour note was the overdose of Kentucky from Charlie Heaton as Sam Guthrie.
They were all great choices. However, what they had to work with in terms of a script, not so much. While I thoroughly enjoyed the performances, their dialogue and accents definitely needed some work.
Characterization could have been just a bit meatier, especially with the film's protagonist, Danielle Moonstar. Her background made sense, but I didn't really get too much from her as an actual person that made me invested in her as a character. Her romantic bond with Maisie Williams as Rain Sinclair played quite naturally, even if it was pretty easy to see coming from the time the two first met.
We really get to know more about them as people, and I felt very connected to them almost. Roberto and Magic are very interesting as well. I enjoyed seeing them on screen, and especially Magic.
The film's horror element is a nice deviation from what you usually expect from a Marvel superhero film, even if that element isn't as substantial or scary as I would have expected. Some scares are memorable, but not for long.
Honestly, it's not a true horror film, as it is a comic book film with horror elements. And when I say that, I mean it's more of a mystery film with horror elements, as throughout the film, each of the characters have to confront their greatest fears, either from their past or general fears. I was only really scared at one point that made me scream in my head, holy shit, primarily because it genuinely took me by surprise. Other than that, there were not too many scares.
The visual effects for the film were also quite distracting, and of course, not in a good way. They looked very clunky and underdefined, and given the film's multiple delays and sizable budget, you'd think they would have taken the time to smoothen that out for a big action superhero film.
Overall, I did have fun with this film. I enjoyed seeing everyone on screen. I loved the characters, but I didn't like the dialogue. But overall, I was just able to turn off my brain for a little bit and have a good time. It's not the strongest X-Men movie, but for the final one by Fox, I think it's time to say that the series as a whole does need a reboot.
Will a sequel happen for this one? Anything is possible, but honestly, I'd be stunned if that's the case, especially considering the film's poor box office returns. A lot of blame for the lack of financial success can of course be made from the anxieties following the COVID-19 pandemic, but the hopes for a sequel would be much brighter if the reception for those who'd actually seen the film were more enthusiastic. While the movie is good if your expectations are low and cravings are simple, for me it was not worth the 90-minute drive I had to make to Connecticut. The journey was better than the destination, and when your destination is the first movie you've seen in theaters in months, that's never a good sign.